All right, guys. Welcome everyone to our third week of the boot camp. So far, we have been focusing on prompting, which came as a surprise to many of you. All right, guys. Welcome everyone to our third day. Yeah. In the previous boot camp, those of you who are coming from the previous boot camp, LLM1, if you remember, we did pretty advanced stuff. By the end of the boot camp, we started out with semantic search, AI search. We did hybrid search. We created a whole ML ops pipeline, isn't it? And then we went on to do RAG, retrieval augmented generation. Then we did multimodal RAG. And in our multimodal RAG, we had not just semantic search, but we had the full hybrid search, keyword search, elastic, everything was thrown in. We had a lot of documents, a lot of images, a lot of videos that we were doing RAG on. So it was a pretty impressive setup. Right? Then we did more multimodal stuff. We did some document AI. We did some video papers on video comprehension, video understanding, visual language understanding. And at the end of it, we did some audio stuff. And at the end of it, you created a virtual instructor who could speak in the language and who could also retrieve information from all the close to 350 videos that have the public videos available on the Support Vectors website. So from a large repository, approximately 4 million tokens of knowledge on machine learning and AI / data science, visualization, and so forth. So from that knowledge, we created a virtual professor, a virtual instructor, who could speak like one of the voices. Many of you picked my voice, and it went quite well. Right? So we went very far. So it might have come as a bit of a surprise that we are starting the advanced course with something which is usually engineers typically consider rather trivial, prompting. They say, what's there to prompting? You just write some English text and you're done with it. You tell ChatGPT, tell me a story, or I need to tell a story to my 10-year-old or 8-year-old about dolphins. Create 2 characters for the dolphins and an adventurous story that I can tell them. And ChatGPT will immediately emit out a story. That's sort of the mental frame that most people have about these LLMs as chat or as assistants. Right? But there is much more to it. In the last 2 weeks, we learned that when you put it in the theoretical framework of what LLM is, you realize that you're doing zero shot, few shot learning, you're doing in-context learning. There is a lot happening there. There's a lot of creativity built into the LLM. Those of you who are attending the weekly paper readings, which I trust is all of you, also know that you can couple an LLM, a large language model, with more rigorous things. For example, a problem solver, a solver, math solver, or a solution verifier, to actually to make these machines solve math problems at the Olympiad level, Olympiad champion, gold medalist level, which is completely surprising. So just think about it. You are writing a few prompts. You're driving an LLM, and essentially you coupling it up with, you're making a judicious setup in which there's an interplay between a large language model and a solver, and you're creating solutions to very, very hard problems, Olympiad level problems. Another one of them was discovery of entirely new solutions in mathematics, actual mathematical discoveries. Right? So prompting is not something to be taken lightly. Another great illustration that we had of prompting was the simulacra paper that we did. How many of you remember the simulacra paper? I hope it's all of you, because we'll start the day with a quiz on it. Okay. Right? Oh, by the way, I create these quizzes as an educational aid, as pedagogically motivated to force you to go over the paper more carefully. So one thing I should mention, these quizzes are open book or open text. Right? So as you do the quizzes, obviously you encounter the question, go try to find the answer in the paper, but don't try to find it digitally. Like, don't just say Control F, or don't use an LLM to answer that question, right? Instead, read the paper, study the paper, guys. See, in this, if I may just go on a digression, our field is hyped up. Everybody is talking about AI, which means that AI experts, so-called experts, are mushrooming by the millions all around you, right? At the moment somebody has learned to fit, there was a time when in high school you would give kids a problem. Here are a few points, just fit a straight line through it. And they would do it as part of their coordinate geometry or pre-algebra, or whatever it is that you call it in the US, you call it as an exercise. Today, if a kid fits a line through 2 points, he immediately declares he's an AI expert, right? He's just done regression, right? So we live in the world of hyperbole, and it's hard to tell how much you know. In this such a world, it is almost of overwhelming importance that your knowledge base is deep and rich. I often take the example of putting an oil rig in the sea. If that oil rig has to stand, the pipes have to go really, really deep and have strong foundations. And in this field, the people who do have strong foundations, invariably, they all end up founding companies and becoming very, very successful, or joining startups and working on startups and doing very, very well, right? All of them that I know of. So you have the potential to change the world, to imagine, dream big, and go change the world. All you have to do is study hard. And you may not, this is one of the educational things, because I'm into both education and AI. Trust me that for you to take any quiz or you study any material or whatever I'm talking, behind this, behind whatever I share with you is years of learning. And then it becomes possible to explain and share. There's a lot of hours that go into preparing the course material, the projects, the everything for you guys, the solutions. Whatever amount of time you're putting in, I have probably put in 10x to 100x the time. Right? I'm asking you to just take this thing seriously. Otherwise, of course, it just becomes, you come here, listen to something, you get a little bit out of it, and then you go. So today's plan is this. I'll just read it out just very quickly. Our current journey has focused on inculcating a more profound prompt engineering skills. Now that we know that prompt engineering is a deep subject, as you know, it may entirely replace traditional software programming, the way things are going. Right? Unsurprisingly, new abilities gradually emerge as the language models continue to scale up. More and more data fed into training these models have given them unprecedented knowledge, which they can harness to respond to user prompts. There used to be a time in India when people said that one of the qualities of God is that she is omniscient. Right? Well, these LLMs are beginning to look like gods now. They are getting to be rather omniscient.
Omnipotent or omniscient?
Omnipotent is all powerful. Well, God forbid if they become omnipotent. Okay, the context window of the input has been expanding, allowing for much more detailed instructions in the prompts and the opportunity for more significant in-context learning. A plethora of other mathematical and structural breakthroughs have led to an agglomerative effect in their versatility. You can see that. Just last week, as I think Madhu was very excited in the audience, and all of you were, Sora came out, JVepa came out. It's like breakthroughs after breakthroughs that couldn't have been imagined 2 years ago are piling up. So there's a huge snowballing effect of what these LLMs can do. Right? Today, whatever would have surprised people a year ago, today feels like a yawn. Of course they can do it. That's the world we live in. With the Cambrian explosion of prompting techniques emerging every day, a rich ecosystem of tools and libraries have occurred. as I could to help us harness all of these in a structured manner. Our lesson plan for the day will focus on a final set of critical techniques. We will follow it up with the rest of the day spent familiarizing ourselves with the tools and libraries associated with all of these. So we will become familiar with instructor, we'll become familiar with LangChain, right? We'll become familiar with AutoGen. Right? So here's a lesson plan for today. Welcome back, of course, and nice to see the class again fill up here, and I hope in the remote also it's filling up. Today we will lesson learned and solution walkthrough. So the solution walkthrough I'll withhold actually. I won't release the official solution because a show of hands, I guessed, has many of you still doing it. So how many of you have finished it? I see one hand. How many of you intend to finish it? Okay. Many of you don't even intend to finish it. No. Okay, guys. Because majority of you intend to finish it, I will withhold it for, how long should I withhold the official solution? Till next week or midweek? Midweek should be fine. Eh? Okay, guys, here's the thing. On Slack, keep posting when you're done with your solution. Right? So I have a head count and then I'll release the official solution. By the way, official solution doesn't mean that it's any better than what you created. I'm hoping that each one of you do a better job than the official solution because the official solution I wrote in 1 hour. So it will have the quality of 1 hour's effort. Right? Remember, what was the problem that we said? Write a children's textbook of 100 pages. And remember, the goal is you should be able to put it in Amazon and sell it for $1. Whoever can do it, I have a special price for that person. And I assure you, the rest of you will be green with envy. You'll say, oh no, why didn't I try? Seriously. I hope that gives you a hint of what's coming. So, and I mean it, by the way, it's a really good price. So do that. And there'll be a whole series of prizes. Right? It is, yes. And so we'll do that. We will do a couple of paper readings. One of them is the chain of thought, self-consistency, tree of thought, important paper. Time permitting, we may do React, or I may leave React as a reading exercise for you on your own, but you'll still get a quiz on it. Right? There is a new project, which I think will be a very interesting project for you guys to do. I would have liked to have some team presentations. There are 2 presentations that we have today. One of them is from Hamad, who has actually finished the textbook. So we will have him share his solution, which hopefully should inspire you to finish it. To give you a background, Hamad is a first-year college student. And he's running circles around all of you. So you need to buck up. So, all right. So that's that. And then, of course, we have Patrick, right? Who will be talking about a very interesting project that he has done and which is heading towards publication in a research journal, and also to do with prompting. So these are the 2 presentations that we'll have today. Okay. Now, we need to decide at what time we do the presentations. First, we do the paper reading, and I'll do 1 paper reading, and then we'll do the presentations. Okay. And I will describe the project, then we'll have the presentations. Now, there is a series that I did in the first LLM. I would like to repeat it around 5:30 or just before you guys go home, whenever you guys feel like going home. Before that, we do the Cambrian explosion. What it is an invitation for each of you to share with the rest of us something interesting that happened in this world of AI, something that piqued your imagination, that got you excited, that you thought you would like to share and tell others. Right? So please pick your Cambrian explosion topic. This will work only if it's a collaborative thing. If you all try and put in something, then we will have. This week has been particularly filled with news. And Yashila is going to talk about Sora, isn't it? And maybe I'll give a little bit of a talk about VJPA and JVPA. I keep forgetting JVPA. And somebody pick different topics, pick different things to talk about. You just have to say, hey, I saw this, it was very nice, and this is what it is. It doesn't mean that you have to explain it or go into tremendous detail about it. So where does this leave us today? Today marks the end of our lessons on prompt engineering in a focused way. We'll move on to the next topic, RAG, advanced RAG techniques. So I want a show of hands. Did you guys feel that it was worth spending this time on prompts? It is. It's a underappreciated thing. I hear people, engineers, especially the system engineers, doing like deep compilers or some system things or working on embedded systems. They will snicker that these days the world has gone to the dogs. Even prompt engineers get 400K salary. Right. So I hope you realize that how much can be accomplished by prompt engineering. And it is quite likely that whatever programming languages survive will be a blend of traditional programming and prompt engineering going forward. It already is. If you're using the Copilot, whatever you're typing, you think you're writing code, you're effectively prompting a Copilot to give you the continuations to your code. So it's already beginning to happen, but we are still doing within the familiar framework of Python or whatever you do. Going forward, that's not going to be true. There may emerge more efficient languages, which are very AI aligned. So that's that. Mm-hmm.
Pictorial languages.
Pictorial languages, yes. Yes, just draw it out. Yeah. So, however, in the subsequent topics we will cover in this bootcamp and the projects we will do, will each necessitate that we continue learning newer, better, more powerful prompting techniques. At the unprecedented pace at which creative research brings forth innovative approaches, inevitably, we will have occasion to encounter more hitherto unforeseen concepts and methods. I guarantee you. It may even be possible that by the time next week comes, you may say, oh, something fundamental has happened in prompt engineering, right? And if it does, we'll cover it in our weekly paper reading. So this is a journey so far. We did naive prompting. We did some amount of structured, CoStar and structured prompting. CoStar is one framework. You can pick your own framework. But how many, I hope you realize that thinking through, doing it in a systematic way, giving examples. Examples is what? Few shot learning, in context learning, right? And being very explicit about what response you expect, setting the context. Who are you? What is the LLM supposed to be? It's an actor. Or what role are you giving? What's the plot? By giving the whole plot and breaking it up into acts, first act, second act, and third act. So likewise, breaking it up into parts and doing it in parts leads to effective results. If you did this project fully, the textbook project, you would realize that you can have an LLM generate an entire textbook with just good prompting and code engineering, obviously, amazingly, and you can create a publication quality textbook for children or for any audience that you want. Just imagine, textbook writing is a massive project. You need authors, you need subject matter experts, you need reviewers, critiques, copy editors, proofreaders, right? You need an army to produce a textbook, right? It's one of the most arduous things to do. You need teachers professors who are really expert in education and curriculum development, right? Or have at least somebody to assist them with laying out the textbook correctly. That's what it takes. It's a year's effort, a multi-year. Those of you who have, if you have ever written a textbook, you know that it's a solitary task. It's a tireless and solitary task. You keep working into the wee hours of the night. My textbook is still incomplete. Many of you have a copy of it.
Let's finish it.
Yeah, I should
Long
finish it.
extension.
Should. But there's such excellent textbooks. I almost feel it's redundant. But anyway, we'll see. So that's that. And now you can generate it with prompt engineering. But when you do it, all of these parts come in. It's like a play that you're writing in various acts. In fact, there's a direct mapping between the chapters and the acts of the play, isn't it? You have to give it a role, the LLM. You have to say, you are a subject matter expert on this topic, you're a professor of this topic. Right? And then you have to give it another role that you're trying to explain it to who? Who's the audience? It's a 10-year-old. Right? So use language with that. Now, one of the things you'll realize when you see the official solution is, how do you know that it really addresses a 10-year-old? How many of you put value? Well, you guys haven't done it, but if you had done it, one of the good practices that you should have done is the moment it emits out something, you bring in another guy, a critique. What is the job of the critique? You bring two critiques in. Can you guess who those critiques could be?
The 5-year-old.
One of them is a child psychologist or child educator who would tell you whether this is actually understandable by a 10-year-old, and who the other critique would be.
10-year-old.
The subject matter expert. Or maybe you could do that. The other critique, you can make the 10-year-old. You could give it the role of a 10-year-old, and yeah, actually that would be better. The way I did it is I got somebody who can answer expertly whether 10-year-olds would get it. But I think your suggestion is better. Just create a role, agent for a 10-year-old. And the other is a subject matter expert to cross-verify what was said is true. So what happens is that, do you see how many interacting parts are there? And that is the crux of today's topic, multi-agent prompting. Right? Good things are done, and this is the last topic I would like to teach you. Great things are done when it's done collaboratively amongst human beings. Code is written best as pair programming. Right? And so likewise, you should have a multi-agent situation whenever you're developing something of value. And we'll talk about that today. So we'll end there. Today, there are only three tools that I want you to get familiar with. The first is AutoGen. Anybody has played with AutoGen? I know Patrick has. So it's a wonderful tool. I'll just give you guys an idea of what it is. This is AutoGen. Multi-agent conversation framework. It's a good segue into this, isn't it? We're just talking about multi-agent conversation. So we can use it to build diverse applications, and as the title itself, as you can see right here, enhance LLM inference and optimization. It really takes it to the next level. And I would say that it's a topic very few people are familiar with, but you should be. It is very empowering. It's very empowering. And I'm going to give you a project on the multi. But before I give you the project, let me also mention that so long as you have been writing most of the prompts by hand and feeding it directly to OpenAI, last time we introduced Instructor. Now, Instructor was something for you guys to read. How many of you feel confident with Instructor now? 2 people, 3 people. I have to explain Instructor then. We'll spend some time walking over it carefully. There are 2 other, so the other tool that I would strongly suggest is LangChain. LangChain, I wouldn't consider it production ready yet, right? So, but it's a great development and getting started tool. Like you can build a lot of things very quickly, right? Or let's just say that it's in the oven, moving towards maturity at which you could use it at production scale, like enterprise scale, with a high traffic environment. It's not high traffic ready, but for small projects, it works very well. The other thing that I want you to become familiar, so this is the LangChain here. And it has, fortunately, it comes with copious documentation. The 2 things that I want you to completely focus on is the word chain in the LangChain, chains. The fact that you can do things sequentially. So remember, I mentioned that break it up into small parts and do it, right? And by small parts, the concept of chain comes in there. We can chain a sequence of things to do, and then sometimes you can create dynamic chains, agents. This year almost surely will be the year, obviously, in which agents are going to take a huge front and central role. But agents have been there in LangChain for quite some time now, for a couple of years, at least. Okay. So get into that. If you don't have, by now, by the way, I must also say that if you, there's always this Langsmith and so on and so forth. You can go with it, you can avoid it entirely. You don't actually necessarily need it for everything, right? A paid version. Now, but you do need OpenAI. Right? Now, one thing that I would see, here's the thing. I hate advocating for one particular vendor, but current reality is OpenAI has a leg up. Google hasn't yet given out their Gemini Ultras, even make it publicly available. It's under private preview. We don't know how good or bad it will be. Right? The last time they hyped themselves up, it didn't turn out to be so good. This time the rumor is it's pretty good. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, can I say something about? Oh, I hear you. The one thing I have observed with LangChain is they are one way or the other. You look at anything that they publish, anything that they create, they're tangling themselves with something OpenAI for sure. Could be embeddings, it could be any model, it could be anything. It's is that OpenAI? Is there any interest between those two, or you think we're going to see the actual open source, LangChain helping the open source models for the orchestration?
No, certainly. See, the thing is that for a long time, for an eternity, as far as AI is concerned, for an eternity, there was no other kid on the block. OpenAI was all we had. And the open source models, open source never had access to that kind of hardware. They had access to much smaller models, and you couldn't work with them. So I think it's just it's the vagaries of how things happen. But I don't think there is a lock-in or there's an effort to do lock-in. If I remember, there was an effort to do LangChain integration with other LLMs. Why do I remember that? Anybody would like to correct me on that?
The tools, I think you can use anything.
No, with tools you can use anything. You can integrate any tool into LangChain. It does work with Cohere. Yeah, Patrick just confirmed it also works with Cohere, and soon hopefully it will work with Google's Gemini, or it. I don't know whether it works with Anthropic yet or not. So there we go. Right. See, guys, this is a reality. People are catching up, but it will take a little bit of time to catch up. Right? I use a lot of in-house LLMs. You tune them. You do all sorts of things. It works quite well for most purposes. So I'll tell you how it goes. You submit a job of, let's say, 1 million records to OpenAI. I'm telling you from practical experience, that job is still running for 3 weeks. Right? You run the same job with a smaller in-house LLM with slight loss of quality, small, about 10% loss of quality. The entire job finishes in 3-4 hours. Right? So obviously there is a strong case to be made for using in-house LLMs. And then obviously, then the trouble comes is, where is the value of LangChain there? Okay. But nonetheless, we will learn LangChain just because it's a dominant library at this moment. So that's the second thing we'll learn. The third thing, and the other issue with LangChain obviously is, when you look at the code base, I think between quality and quantity, at this moment, they have heavily biased themselves towards quantity. They are very feature rich. It's breadth first search, right? Very feature rich. But anything you look at, it just feels like an inch deep, right? And you look at the code, sometimes it can be messy. Sorry, I hope they're not listening. So then the other tool that I would like you to play around with is, see, this is a LLM arena. I invite you to go and write some prompts. Do this, guys. You want to see how well open source LLMs are doing? How many of you are familiar with this LLM arena, chatbot arena? Please do that. You can, for example, ask it, right? Explain how protons, how I'll ask it a simple question. Stability of the proton is relates to the concept of topological solid forms. Let's see which of them can do it. Okay, I don't know if you guys can read it. I ask it a question that will be simple, but it's to people in the field, but it is it deals with quantum chromodynamics. There's at least one person in the audience who knows the answer very well. I'll let you guys guess who it is. Not me. Besides me. I mean, I actually worked on this, but besides me.
Chanda?
Yeah.
Dilip?
Yeah. Chanda. Dilip is, I don't know if he showed up today. Okay. So there you go. So now the thing is, you have to decide which is better, and you can give an answer which is better. And then you can ask it to regenerate share. Both are bad, etc., etc. Then after a little while, it will tell you which of the two LLMs they were. Right? And you can make it compete against the different LLMs. You can look at the leaderboard, how the LLMs are doing. Right? So expand to see the description. Here are the LLMs that it's using. Okay? There is a way for you. If you chat with it enough, then it will reward you by telling which one it is. Or it used to. Right? Go play with it. Anyway, that's something to have fun with.
Awesome. So you talked about Llama indexing. Somebody the last boot camp that is better than LangChain. Is that still
for RAG we will. Next week we'll do heavily the LangChain. Absolutely.
No, I mean Llama index.
Yeah. Llama index is great for RAG.
Okay.
Absolutely great for RAG. In fact, we'll standardize on that. So now what happens is that, guys, last bootcamp were foundations. We did everything by hand. But now I'm getting you ready for production grade work, right? Which means that along the way, many open source projects have matured quite a bit. So for example, if you remember, we literally use the FAS library to create the FAS index, right? Our semantic search index. It's time now to say that you use that if you have a small project, if you have a large project with lots of things happening, then use QDrain, right? Or Pinecone or whatever, but we'll standardize on QDrain for indexing in approximate nearest neighbor search. We'll standardize on Llama index for our RAG. It just makes your life easy. These have matured to production grade. So, all right, guys, coming back to what I have to say, day 2. Is the scope of day 2 clear, guys? This is what we will do. You will become familiar with all these 3 tools in the afternoon. Right? We have research paper reading. I'm going to do one research paper reading, just the middle one, time permitting the last one. The first one is too easy. I will just explain it in the course of explaining the second research paper. Are we together? Right. And because the second research paper is sort of a seminal work in prompting, there is a quiz on it. It's really worth knowing the core ideas well. We'll do that. Then React, time permitting, you can read on your own or I'll cover it, but there'll certainly be a quiz on it. That too is a pretty core concept in prompting, so we will have. Right? Now, that's where we are. the quizzes, there'll be on the tree of thought, there'll be a quiz, but there is one quiz that you haven't finished, guys, and that I invite you to do. In your day one, you will find a quiz that so far is incomplete because I was late in posting that quiz on the simulacra. So do both of these quizzes after the tree of thought paper. Does that make sense? These are short quizzes, 15 questions each. Open text quiz means as you answer it, go back and review and revise the paper. It should be an opportunity to revise it. And it is more fun when you do it on paper because you actually flip it. The trouble with having a question digitally is people use Control F, right, to search for answers. Where's the keywords? So please don't do that. Actually browse through the paper. That's that. So what did we do last time? We did the top 3 predictions. Top 3 predictions, guys, I feel that we still need a few, 15 attempts are here, and there are some attempts in the other side. So good. A chain of thought quiz completion rate is 20 attempts. Some of you have not taken the chain of thought quiz, guys. Please do that. See, if you don't assess, nobody is going to look at your score. Right? It is self-assessment. By taking the quiz and keeping the paper in front of you, open text, it just helps you review the material, the paper better. Right? So please go and do that. And simulacra, I don't believe anyone has taken so far. Oh, there are 2 attempts already. Awesome. Old Faithful Geyser, if you missed last time, there is a document here. Go look at that. Starter code for children's textbook generation. Did anybody find the starter code useful? You guys did. Okay, nice. And Autogen Studio, I introduced last time. I've introduced it again. Awesome prompt engineering collection is really awesome. Please do keep revisiting it. Generative agents. This was the paper we covered. Chain of thought paper we covered. A tree of thought we covered, but now we are going to do it again. And instructor framework, I'm going to redo it after the paper read. We didn't do it. It was a learn on your own thing, but we are going to do it now. Right? So,
Asif, can I ask one question? Sorry,
yes.
it's stuck in my head. What was that you were recommending production grade in place of FIAS?
But no, it's not a replacement of FIAS. I'm saying FIAS is a wonderful algorithm. But if you think about it, FIAS has a lot of moving parts. Like, for example, what is your indexing strategy within FIAS? Is just approximate nearest neighbor engine, a really blazing fast approximate nearest neighbor engine that scales tremendously, right? But the indexing strategies, like many of you, like, for example, are you using HNSW? Are you using something else? Are you using an adaptation of HNSW or blah, 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 right? Or are you using the flat L2 based on the context, etc.? Now what happens is, now that you have learned all of this properly, it's time to delegate it to a production grade index management engine, a vector DB. And such a vector DB, the one that I would recommend strongly is QDrent. For theoretical reasons, it makes a very good argument of small worlds and a graph connectivity. It's a graph thinking. The theoretical foundations are good. Besides, it's written in a very modern code base. It's written in a rather rusty language.
Yes.
Got it. Yeah, I actually read somewhere contrary to that, so I was just trying to clarify that. But got it, Asif.
No. Why don't you express the contrary opinion? What is it that you read? We may
Yeah,
learn.
I will try to find the article. They were recommending FIAS be the production grade and not go for anything else from an indexing perspective. But it's probably depends on the use case, like you were saying. If this is a use case of a similarity search that only is not too complex and so on and so forth, probably FIAS is the best. I
Absolutely.
will find that, and somewhere I read that, and I'm trying to find that article.
See, it is certainly true. I know of a place, for example, where FAS is used, literally raw FAS without vector DB, is used with great efficiency in one of the largest social media companies. And I know it because first time, I mean, from a direct conversation. They maintain their FAS index and they have 100 billion images they're talking about that they are searching for.
Yes. Yes,
We can guess it, but I won't name it. So, so it is true. And see, if you can manage FAS on your own, then Madhu, then by all means do it on your own. It removes the overhead. I mean, it depends upon which thing you find easy. I like to have things under control. So I've always, like for all the projects before, so far, I've been doing this for a long time now. I would just create FAS index myself.
Got it, Asif. Thank you.
Moving forward in a multi-team environment where every team have their own set of data that they want to create a separate index of, there is a big index management problem. Okay. And also, there is the other aspect of metadata. See, when you search in FAS, it is a semantic search, embedding vectors. But now you have to filter by some metadata that it should be between 2021 and 2023. Only get those documents or records and things like that. So to be able to filter by metadata becomes your burden. Whereas if you use any of these tools, these are the services they give you, basically.
So Asif, this quadrant thing, so if you use it, you don't need to have the underlying database and you just directly use the vector.
Yes, that's what they do. They give it to you as a box. Yeah.
So Asif, I'm sure you must be aware of, they started porting FAS index in SQLite. So SQLite is the smallest.
SQLite, of course, in memory
database.
Yeah.
And they started porting.
Oh yes, certainly, it's very good. Prakash mentions that now FAS index has made it to even SQLite. Guys, trust me, every single database and every single database vendor is including semantic search. They wouldn't survive without it. Nobody would survive. This one, Postgres has it in a very nice way. Oracle is having it. MongoDB has it. Everybody now has it. Yes. Very good. Thanks for bringing that up. This is a good point. All right, guys. So with that, I'll give you guys exactly a 10-minute break. And then, no, before that, let me give you the project. What's the project for today? Can I describe you the project? Yeah, go
sorry,
ahead.
Asif. Sorry to interrupt. I don't know, for some reason this topic is stuck in my head. At some point, would you just brief or cover a little bit about Palantir's platform? Because sounds like some of the enterprises are preferring Palantir when it comes to everything data ingestion, perspective.
Palantir.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, Palantir. See, Palantir evolved as a consulting company that used to do projects for a lot of the secretive government organizations that are not supposed to exist. Three-letter ones, like NSA, no such agency. So then along the way, and actually I have met the people who created Palantir in one meeting, and they said that, see, our business goal is very simple. From the projects, consulting work that we do, we try to find the common core and productize it. So you need less consent. So obviously they have been moving into that. They command a lot of trust, because of which they have built a lot of tools. And obviously they are monetizing the tools. Organizations are moving in. Personally, unless I need that high level of trust and invisibility, I don't see why I would go to Palantir.
Got it. I don't mean to derail your flow. Sorry. I just thought I would break it up.
Asif, a quick question.
Yeah.
Are we covering guardrails and jailbreak and prompting? Sometimes that's something that organizations are struggling with in GenAI.
How to make your prompt in such a way, your system prompts in such a way that the user prompts can't jailbreak. It is a topic I will do under adversarial attack. It's coming in this course. The adversarial attacks and defenses is a core topic in this bootcamp. Then I'll do that.
Yeah, one question. On the tree of thoughts, is there any framework available, or we we need to sort of, if I want to implement key of parts in my conflict?
That's a very good question. And how about this? I'll let you find the answer. But I'll give you a hint. The answer exists. But I'll let you find it. All right, guys. So here's the project. Before we break, Sukhpal, 1 minute, just before we break. Here's your project, guys. You need to use AutoGen, the multi-agent, or you can use LangChain or whatever you want. But I think the right approach would be to use AutoGen. Right? Studio, that will be easy. To create this scenario, here's the scenario. Imagine that there's a professor of something, right? For example, the professor could be professor of medicine, professor of physics, or whatever it is, right? Or to help you, professor of machine learning, who will give multiple choice questions, will dynamically create multiple choice questions, right? Whose answers will be a little hard to get to. There will be a human trying to answer, right? So human would actually go, will get the prompt user prompt box. And then there will be a teaching assistant or a mentor, tutor, whatever you want to call it, to whom the human can go for help. Now, what the teaching assistant needs to do is, guess what? Answer the question? No. That's what bad TAs do, right? They'll quietly just give you the answers in the TARs, right? So what you're supposed to do is do everything possible except give the answer, but be helpful. Give explanations, guide the person towards the answer, right? Point the person to the answer, but not answer. And there is, once again, let me just say, an enviable prize at the end of this project. By the way, these prizes that I'm talking about are enviable. No, seriously, when you see somebody else get the prize, you say, "Oh shucks, I wish I'd done it. I could have done better." Right? So come win the prizes and develop a collection of electronic toys. So this is the thing, guys. Do you understand the project? Did we all get it? How do you help a student learn without the professor is trying to teach the student, give an assessment by giving a self-assessment? You know, here's a question, like I give you guys a quiz. What's the purpose of the quiz? It's for you. I don't look at the score. Obviously, I'll never have the time. Nobody else can look at it, but you look at it. But when you look at your score, what does it tell you? I know this, I don't know this, isn't it? I need to review this, or in the feedback that we give to the question, we explain why this is the correct answer. You learn something from that, right? Now, here's the thing. You get a series of questions. The professor will keep emitting out a question, but the student will struggle. So make sure that it will be humoring. So guys, pick a topic in which you're not the expert, right? So you're not the professor of that topic, right? So quantum chromodynamics is a good topic, right? Pick something like that. Now you can then go to the tutor or teaching assistant and ask for help. And you have to program the teaching assistant never to answer the question. The teaching assistant can see the question, just like the student can see it. But therefore, the teaching assistant should do everything possible not to answer the question directly, but to guide the student towards the answer. Are we together? By the way, this particular project has made one edtech company worth billions. Guess what? Guess which company is that? Khan Academy. In fact, what is it? Khan Amigo is literally this product. And I claim that you guys are all trained now. You can do it. You may not do it to the same level of polish or perfection. I'm sure there's a team of 100 engineers sitting there. But I'm telling you, you guys can do it.
By the way, just well, we're recording, so I will share that information later.
Okay, so you want to share it after I stop recording? So I can stop now, guys. So we'll take a break, 15 minutes break. I'll stop the recording and we will start again after the break now.
Can the TA act as a validator if the student submits the correct answer? Because that's actually something that's somewhat debated in like the CS
Academic
department,
circles, yeah.
like that,
Yeah.
whether if like you have a student that gives you the right answer, but they're asking about whether they have the right reasoning, whether it would be considered cheating for the TA to validate the answer.
Yeah, take a stricter role. For this project, take a stricter stand. That even if the student is right, you say that, well, I can tell you about the subject, but I can't tell you if your answer is right or